something else I want uh to bring up too, which I really found this interesting, is the Black History Month is celebrated in several other countries too.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, they started celebrating it after we did, but like we have countries like Canada, of course, the UK, Germany,
Mhm.
the Republic of Ireland, France, and even in Africa.
Mhm.
A lot of people have embraced this month to kind of highlight some of the accomplishments of Black people. And I feel like this is something that we all can learn from. It's not a month where it's used to separate us. I think it's something to remind us, like, hey, we're part of history too.
Mhm.
We love this country. We helped build this country, and we just want everyone to know about our history
Mhm.
and how a lot of people sacrificed for this country as well that were Black Americans. So I
Mhm.
really feel that with the agendas that are being pushed now to delete this certain curriculum out of education, I believe that it's more important. It's imperative that we teach our young people. Like, if you're not going to get the knowledge in school, you need to teach your kids outside of school. You need to urge them to discover who they are, because
Mhm.
unfortunately, if you leave that up to the school system, your kids are gonna be jacked up.
Yeah.
Your kids are gonna be confused. They ain't gonna know who they are, and they're gonna leave your children in a bad position. They're not going to have uh knowledge of self. They're not going to have any self-worth. They're going to look down on themselves. So a lot of this stuff has to be taught at home. You can't expect the school system to instill self-worth into your children, because they're not going to do it.
Mhm.
A lot of Black students are being attacked at school. Like they already have a lot. I can go into a lot of directions with, like, the
Yeah.
school to prison pipeline. Like, it's just like they have been, I don't know. We're already,
Mhm.
I don't know, at a
Mhm.
disadvantage going into the
Yeah.
system. So
Yeah. So, what I say want to say is, first of all, others shouldn't be concerned about us having this month because, to be frank, there's other cultures who have history months for themselves as well, Asian
right,
History Month or Native American. So, coming after just our month when everyone else has theirs too, just well, it seems petty, but also it's obviously anti-black. But
right,
so
anti-Blackness.
yeah, like why go after just ours when others have months as well, even Women's History Month or something. So, and as far as the teachers, um, yeah, I agree with you what you said about you can't rely on the schools because I when I was in college, I spoke to teachers who had classes that had heavy uh, proportions of Black and Latino students. One was actually going back to school to get a higher degree, and I asked him how he taught history because he was a history teacher, and because he mentioned that his class had lots of Black and Latino students. I said, did he, adjust what he was teaching to fit the students who were actually listening to him? Did he focus on their history and things that would be important for them to learn? And he said, of course, that they have to teach things a certain way or there's going to be problems. And I had another one I
Mm.
spoke to who gave the same answer that if they don't teach it a certain way and leave certain things out, they can get a lot of trouble. So,
Yeah, especially in Florida, I hear like that's being pushed really heavily in Florida, and it's scary. Like, you think that it's just going to stop at Florida, like,
mm-mm,
um, it's just they're just testing it out, and
mhm,
and, and for you to be naive to think that it's not going to come to a city near you, you're sadly mistaken. And I feel like, what are you trying to hide? Like, you're embarrassed. You don't want the
mhm,
world to know, like,
mhm,
the demonic history of this country and
mhm,
what you did to Black Americans or and indigenous Americans. Like, you don't want people to know this, you want this pristine image to be pushed out globally of, America, but
Mhm.
it's far from that. And I think
Mhm.
that if we start whitewashing history, we're doomed to repeat it. Like, we have to
Yeah.
put it out there. Like every other group, if they've had atrocities done to them, they're not going, they don't want you to forget what happened to them, and you better not mess with their history, because there's going to be hell to pay for it, and they're not going to put up with it. So I feel like we as Black people, we have to be serious about our
Mhm.
history, and we have to be serious about teaching our young people about their history and their accomplishments, because I think a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, this school system is not meant to build your child up, especially if,
No.
yeah. So it has to start at home, like knowledge of self and self-love,
Mhm.
and all that stuff has to be instilled by the parents at home, because this school system's a mess. They halfway want to educate your students anyways. They're leaving out these
Mhm.
schools not knowing how to do basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. And you think they're going to teach your kids that? Like, no, you have to instill that at home. It's just
Mhm.
certain things we got to stop sending these kids to school thinking that the school is just going to equip them with everything. It's not going to happen. Not
Yeah.
today. It's not going to happen today.
Yeah, and this is years in the making anyway. There was a scholar years ago. I mean, I believe it was Howard Zinn. Don't quote me on that. It's been a really long time since I read the book, but there was a scholar who had actually written a book to be used in schools and couldn't get it passed because it was too, I guess, honest about American history, and they didn't want
Mm,
to put that into schools, into children's hands, because well, what he basically went into was saying that history classes in schools are not designed to teach history. They're designed to build productive, loyal citizens who will do whatever they're told by those who are above them. And he said that you can see how this kind of like this method of teaching will actually affect the grades of Black and Brown students. They'll disengage because what's being taught is really degrading. They will either just have their self-esteem attacked, or they will just disengage and have really bad grades in that subject. And it's all designed that way just to
mm,
create this idea of America being the best country in people's minds, and making certain students who are privileged to feel really good about themselves and their history, instead of just telling the truth of the matter.
yeah. And
And
I really feel a lot of times like you don't really get a thorough education. A lot of people down college, which I think it is a college, it's a trap in many cases. But one thing I will say that I learned, that I gained from attending college, is just a knowledge of self, and you actually get to research and delve into certain topics.
mhm,
I didn't really delve into that stuff like when I was in high school. Like, they didn't really teach Black History Month in high school, and about this is a lot of stuff I had to research on my own and
mhm,
further my education. That's why I became more aware and more knowledgeable about Black history.
mhm,
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like, you have to learn this stuff on your own.
mhm,
There's a lot of knowledge that you're just going to get a very surface understanding of history.
mhm,
You have to research a lot of these things on your own.
mhm,
And I feel like with us as a people, I think if we had a better knowledge and awareness of who we were, I think
mhm,
a lot of the ills that we face as a community would cease to exist. You
mhm,
know, and I think that we would sometimes get out of this defeatist mindset. Even though we're already at a disadvantage being born into this country. We have a lot of odds stacked against us. But I feel like if we were more aware of who we are and the things that we have overcome, or overcame as a group of people, I think that would help us fight even stronger. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
globally, we have done a lot in this country, and a lot of people like to discredit us, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't
And
even have to get into the inventions that we've created, a lot of the innovations that we created that were stolen
yeah,
by the slave
slave
masters, and
owners.
they take yes. So don't let anybody tell you that we haven't contributed anything to this country, because that's a lie. We helped
Mm-hmm.
build this country. There were inventions that were built, and then it seems like every time we have built uh well, affluent neighborhoods, it was
It's burned
sabotaged. Black
down.
success in this country has always been sabotaged. Like the fact that we're still here, we 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 lived through Jim Crow, we lived through slavery, Jim Crow, we lived through them bombing our communities, we lived through segregation. Um, there were even attacks against us where they tried to put drugs, crack in our communities. They
Mm-hmm.
put like diseases. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's really we have a lot to be grateful for. Like, and we
Mm-hmm.
we should be proud, because like people can point and say, well, the black community is this, and the black community that, we have this problem and that problem. But you know what? Any other group of people could not endure what we've gone through. Like it's a miracle that we are even here, even with some of the dysfunction that we have, that and issues that we still need to work through. It's a miracle that we are still here, like alive, like
Mm-hmm.
and that should be a further testament of the strength that our people have and the resilience that our people have. So
Yeah. And people who say that never consider the effects of transgenerational trauma anyway, like trauma
mm,
that the mother endures when she's pregnant is going to release stress chemicals into her body and to the fetus, and also it's going to obviously affect the way she raises her child. And then we consider the abuse that children face in society at large away from their parents. There's just a lot of trauma that gets passed either from the parents or from society itself, because it's not just us, it's the whole country has this built into them in some way. So uh, it's not, I mean, yeah, some things that we do, obviously adults should take responsibility for their own actions, but like you need to take into
yeah,
consideration what causes issues in the community as well. And uh, instead of just pointing fingers to say that we're inferior because we have poverty or drug use or whatever, like, are you actually pointing these things out because you care and want to help, or is it just another way to say, oh, you're inferior because you can't overcome these problems quick enough when we've only been out of uh, segregation since the 60s,
yeah,
and so like that's not enough. You can't like create a problem that's lasted for centuries and fix it in like less than a decade, or less than a century, I should say.
yeah. And the thing you got to realize is, a lot of people, here's the thing, you still have people, individuals that were still alive doing. It's not like these people have all passed on. You
Mm-hmm.
have people that vividly remember these traumatic events. Like, I
Hmm.
have a grandmother that's like in her
Hmm.
mid-90s that saw a lot of this stuff from Mississippi. Like, a lot of this stuff, she lived through this. Like, a lot of, like, our
Hmm.
our elders are still alive. Like, you got to
Hmm.
realize, we're not. If you think about it realistically, we're not too far removed.
Yeah.
Let alone like segregation and all that stuff. We're not too far removed from
Hmm.
slavery. Like,
Yeah.
you have some people like their great grandparents like were slaves. Like,
Hmm.
depending on how long they lived.
Hmm.
So the fact that people tell me that we should get over it and we're not do anything and this, that, and the other, that's absurd. I don't want to hear that, because
And
mhm.
go ahead. You go finish your
Oh,
sentence.
no, you're fine.
Oh,
You're fine.
no, no, I'm just saying that like I feel like we've done a great job considering everything that's happened. Like people really underestimate the trauma, the abuse, what actually was done. Like they don't really know the details of it. When I was in high school, I had a teacher who was talking about slavery, just the basic details, and some student was like, "Well, why couldn't they just choose to not work?" And I was just like, "Do you not understand what was happening?" To ask why they couldn't just choose to not work, like people just really don't understand at all what is really being discussed. They don't understand people pulling out your teeth and using them to make dentures, or
Oh my
people
God.
skinning you to make furniture, people like using your hair and
Yeah.
cutting off to stuff furniture like you're an animal, or just raping you as a child and forcing you to
Mm,
give
mm, mm.
birth and making you live in a closet, so, and just pulling out at their discretion to rape you and then throw you back in when you're like 12. Like there there was a lot that happened, and that I'm just a couple of things off the top of my head. Like you're what do you what do you think we are trying to recover from? Just being forced to not or forced to work for free? Like that's just the basics. Like this wasn't just free labor, this was genuine torture and genocide.
It was systematic racism, like, and it was meant to break us down. Like they stripped us of our language, our cultures,
Hmm.
our everything. And the thing is, a lot of people, and I don't want to. We can go into get real deep with this. Like you have to realize how the black man was demasculine, um,
Oh
late
yeah.
nated or whatever. Like how they were buck broken. The women were raped.
Hmm.
Let's just be honest with you. The kids were stripped from their parents. Like families was broken up. That's why there's such like, and I'm not saying this is true for all Black Americans, but that's why there's a divide within our community as far as the family, because the family has all they've always attacked the family. They knew that was one way to keep us fragmented as a group of people by attacking the family.
Hmm.
You saw how they did that during slavery. They did that even like when there were certain programs like you can't have a father in the home in order to benefit from this, and that. You know, it's just are throwing black men in jail for offenses that other people commit, and they get a slap on the wrist. Like the
Yeah.
whole thing. And this is why I have a problem with people like Joe Biden. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I know he's a Democrat, but you put into legislation like a lot of things that broke up the black family. You did. And it's like we have to take accountability of this. Like we're still trying to uh heal from a lot of this stuff. You know what I mean? There's so
Hmm.
much
Yeah.
dysfunction. Yeah.
Yeah, this didn't. It's not it all stops like with slavery. People always say slavery was what, a couple hundred years ago almost, and it's like okay, but it didn't stop then. Obviously, it took a while for the memo to reach a lot of people, and then even once people were not officially chattel anymore, you still had people who had the same ideals living their day-to-day lives, like after slavery. There was a case in Memphis, Tennessee, I think, where a white man broke into a black home and he pushed out the black man and forced the black woman to make food for him and then try to pleasure him sexually. And she cried
Mm,
when he tried to force her to perform fellatio. And when she cried, the white man was confused, like, oh, I heard that all black women are naturally promiscuous, that it's impossible to rape
mm,
you because you always want it. And if you always want it, then it's always consensual. If it's always consensual, then it's never rape. And so those ideas that carried on after slavery,
yeah.
and then once you get into like yeah, the period afterwards, you also had newspapers being printed saying that black men can control their women, and that we go out and have sex with everyone, everything, and that we are
Mm,
loud and controlling and aggressive. So it paints us both in a bad light. It makes black women seem like we're not real women because those are things that they well in the American mind women don't do. So it made us look like we were aggressive and promiscuous, and made black men look well weak and emasculated because they couldn't control their women the way
Mm.
a white man could. So it was kind of like taking care of both of us at the same time by saying these things in newspapers printed. So that's propaganda that starts spreading, and that's why we get these Jezebel stereotypes and these other views of, well, black women and black men. So, and of course, it all started in slavery to justify rape, but yeah, it carried on way after that into these forms, and that's why we still have these beliefs and issues today.
And then that kind of leads into, like, they try to keep pit uh black men versus black women. Like we
Mhm.
even see this stuff play out on social media. That's how they keep us divided, because they put these gender biases and all this stuff. Like, we have gender wars between the black man and the black woman. This stuff, like, people think this stuff is just happening. This stuff has been going on for years. And like you said, we don't have the black family or the black unit, then that's how they can keep us divided. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that's
And
that's why it's important for us to put all that stuff aside. And it's time for us to start healing. And it's time for us, like, individually, collectively, we need to do it. But individually, we need to start investing in mental health. Like, we need to, because that's a lot of just trauma that's passed on from generation to generation, a lot of shame, a lot of just dysfunction that was started in slavery, and we haven't broken those generational curses. Man, this thing can go really deep. That's why I believe in mental health. I believe in, if you need to go talk to someone and get some help, work through some issues, do it. There's no shame in doing it, because we're not going to heal as a group of people until we start investing in that. Like, we just think that, and I don't have nothing against, the church. I grew up in the church or whatever, but we think that we're gonna pray to Jesus and he gonna fix it by and by and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, you know, the God has given us knowledge. He's given us people to help work through these issues. So we shouldn't be ashamed to better ourselves. You know what I mean? We have a lot of things that we need to work through as a group of people. And like I said, I'm very proud to be a Black American, because I know how resilient we are. We are a fighting group of people. We fight. We've always fought the good fight. We fought for this country. We helped build this country, and, like, regardless of the stuff that we've gone through, we still have a spirit of Black excellence. And I think a lot of times with the media, let me bring Naz back up. I think she dropped. I think a lot of times the media, and I talked about this, we talked about this a while ago on one of my previous podcasts, and we might talk about this again, because I want to get your opinion on this in the future, how the media is out here to denigrate the Black community. And I think that a lot of times the media puts the worst of the worst out there for everyone to see globally.
Mhm.
And that's why a lot of people from other countries have these negative misconceptions about us, because they're being fed this stuff through the media. And a lot of times, a lot of our accomplishments, a lot of the things that we have contributed to, not only just American society, but globally in, like, other countries, a lot of that stuff is not uh, being presented to the world. So that's why it's a system. Like, man, I'm telling you, it was a system that was designed. Even now, like, the legal system wasn't designed with us in mind. Like, a lot of this stuff hasn't been updated in the Constitution. The laws are antiquated, and they still consider us 3/5 of a person. They do. So that's
And
why it's so easy for them to throw us in the prison system. That's why it's so easy to for the younger people to be into this, like, system of the school to prison pipeline, because they don't look at us as human, even though that we were the ones that helped founded this country. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I know
and
a lot of y'all don't want to hear this, but we're gonna talk about it tonight.
I think it's a little worse than just not considering what we've accomplished. I think a lot. I've seen cases where the countries, they will take something that we've created and actually attribute it to someone else entirely. Like I remember seeing a while ago or a few years ago, they were discussing, I think it was jazz and blues in Korea, and this Korean man said, "Oh, um, Black people copy jazz and blues from white people, and that our music is based on white music, like jazz." I'm like, so they're not even considering.
I don't think so. Like even that, like I know it's been a lot of a big debate on even hip hop and like R&B,
Yeah,
like the origins of that. Like, no, this was an American black art form. Now, did other people join in later on to help shape it or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah. Well,
They did, but they did not originate this,
yeah,
this art form.
that that's my point. Like, these are things that we've created, but people elsewhere are at this point are trying to attribute to someone else. And yeah, like
Mhm.
you mentioned with art, with rap, I've seen people lately even saying rap is white music. I'm like, where is this coming from? It's like kind of like how rock and roll originally with us, with Miss, what was her name? Rosetta Tharpe or someone, and
Mhm.
her music was actually well, her songs were taken by white artists. Like Hound Dog was originally hers, not Elvis's.
Mhm.
And but again, I've seen lately, like just starting just a few years ago, people are starting to try and say that jazz belongs to white people, or rap or R&B or blues, and it's not, because well, it really comes down to just not wanting to give us any credit for our own culture.
Yeah.
and and I was really surprised, because I guess since I am Black, I just took it as common knowledge that these come from Black culture, but apparently not. And that's why people talk about appropriation. Like it'd be different if we were treated better and things are being shared and done equally. But when you
Right.
look at how rock and roll went from being just a Black style, which they wouldn't even play because it was Black music, to suddenly
Yeah.
being almost exclusively white, and the handful of Black artists are not as popular as the white ones, it just makes me feel like, okay, so that happened, so is that going to happen with rap and R&B or hip hop next? Because I mean, yeah, like it's our faces on it right now, but that was the same thing with rock and roll years ago. It was our faces, and now it's not. So
Mhm.
history can also obviously repeat itself, and
Yeah.
it's not that. I know people will say it's just music, but that's not the point of it. The point
It's
is
not. Yeah.
people will, their main argument for hurting us is saying we've contributed nothing to society. So if we strip away little bits of our contributions here and there over time, it makes it look like we have done nothing, and that it makes it
Yeah.
easier for them to make a point of it's okay to hurt us or get rid of us because we've done nothing. When yeah, and so it don't take away everything we've done at once. You just do it bit by bit, whether it be hair styles or music or food, cuisine, or inventions. Just little by little over time, you can make us seem worthless.
And like I mentioned earlier, like we've been sabotaged so many times. Like any time we've made any progress in
Mhm.
society, like let's go back to a lot of our wealthy, affluent towns and cities that we built. A lot of people and that were doing better than a lot of white towns and cities. They will always come in, either build a highway through it or come
Mhm.
in and
Vomit.
pretty much destroy the bomb it. I said it's always been something, but yet you want to put the goalpost up and say, well, you guys need to pull yourself up by the bootstrap and you need to do this, that, and the other. Like, how can we progress as a group of people when every time we do try to do for self, which I'm a big proponent for that, like we can't do it because at any time, we do start making progress. It's like you always want to come in. You want, it's just the government always wants to come in and see, well, how are these Negroes able to do X, Y, and Z? Like, we don't need them taking over. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it's like, and that's why I tell a lot of these minorities, y'all, some of y'all come over here. Let's be honest with you. Some of these immigrants come here and they think that, and this is another thing, like they feel like in order to get ahead in American society, they have to crap on black people.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, you don't realize this, that they're using you as a pawn, and when it comes down to it, they look at you as less than too. So it would behoove you to link up with us, because a lot of times we as Black Americans, we have always fought for other groups of people, and they always give their proverbial behinds to kiss. You see
mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So I feel like we need to be talking about these issues. You know what I mean? And we need to. I feel like it's very important for us to keep our history alive, document our own history, because
Mm-hmm.
history is going to be written by whoever is dominant, quote unquote dominant. They're going to write it from their point of view. So I feel like we have to make sure our history is stays alive. We need to document our history. We need to teach our lineage. We need to teach our kids. We need to teach you know what I mean? We need to teach them about the history of this country, what we've done, and what we have contributed to this country. Because I think a lot of these kids today coming up, they don't know about basic stuff. They don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't even. You ask them about what the Underground Railroad is, some of them don't even know what that is. They
Yeah.
think, maybe if you tell them the Underground Railroad, they think the Underground, that's a place in Atlanta where we can go shopping and do this.
Mm-hmm.
No, like they don't know. Like, they are oblivious to this stuff.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we need to help each other, because I remember when I first started out learning African history, I remember it
Mm,
being challenging because at every point when I would try to dig up resources, this is quite a while ago, when I was just entering college, I remember running into so many roadblocks with, especially like racist extremists who would try to discount information or try to find some way to block access to certain resources, or just do whatever they could to try to yeah put down Black inventions or culture and history. And I remember complaining to a friend actually at the time about how hard it was to figure out what were actual facts, because of these issues with these racists who were trying to make it very hard to actually figure out what was actually true and not true. I know
yeah.
now, but that's because of years of reading and comparing sources and talking to actual historians. So you said earlier you are proud of our resiliency, and I guess I take that for granted myself, because I am also proud to be Black, but not just because of our strength in enduring these obstacles. A lot of my pride just comes from genuine knowledge of how amazing Africa and its people and our
Mm-hmm.
culture is. Just the genuine facts. We are a very interesting group of people. The cuisines, both in the Americas and in Africa, the clothing, the hairstyles, what they represent, the various empires in Africa, which were gorgeous in my opinion. The architecture, which people always assume is just going to be some mud huts. They don't think about the actual adobe built
Yeah.
castles or stone castles in Ethiopia, underground stone churches built by Africans, the stone walls and fortresses. These people who were so diverse, some totally democratic, some who had zero crime or very low crime in their empires. Uh, a whole society is built around knowledge and reading and schooling. Uh, Societies where people would come in from the Middle East and be shocked at the equality comparative, that women had the ability to speak to men and have male friends, and to read and learn, and engage in society, whereas the visiting cultures didn't have that for their women at the time. And again,
Right.
Africa had the issues, but that's I can't really get into all of that because Africa has like, or yeah, has like 3,000 ethnic groups. So the diversity itself is just a lot to really dig into. But yeah, there is so much there to learn and be proud of and to really engage with and to just make us seem like we were just in mud huts and straw skirts running around doing nothing is uh, extremely insulting when it was nothing of the sort. We had writing. We developed uh, outside influence, like
Yeah.
writing across in various cultures in Africa. We were not what they paint us to be. So that is what I take pride in, knowing that we were or still were and are a very innovative,
Hmm.
gorgeous people.
Yeah.